Well, hello again, everybody. This is AKA Heather Joy, and you are on the lifeboat. I am just coming back today to do part two of signs of, of a dysfunctional, toxic family environment. I only got through five of the signs this morning, and I want to continue this. I feel like it's an important one, and I don't even know. Oh, I do have a few here. Here's Cherry Bakewell and Jason Norval. I'm glad you guys are here. Good to see you. Yeah, I know this is a little bit of an irregular time, but we are trying to put out a little more content between Tommy and I. It's mostly Tommy, but with our channel growing, we need a little bit more. So I'm happy to continue here. This morning, I had talked about some of the signs that you're going to see um, in toxic family environments, when families are very dysfunctional. But the five signs that I talked about this morning, more things that you're going to notice as you're a child. What I want to talk about now are the signs that you're going to see as you become an adult. Because dysfunctional families, toxic families, that all continues. Things do change, they do evolve, but it's for very often it just continues. It does change. It does change a little bit. I know overall things with the family, my family, that when I came from, things have gotten better all the way around, which is nice. It's good to see that. Everybody seems to have their issues, and yeah, I was really the black sheep of the family, being an addict and everything. But so be it. I don't mind it. Sorry, I'm just running out of energy today already. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly go over the signs that I talked about this morning. The first one was that in dysfunctional families, in toxic environments like that, there are a lot of unrealistic expectations that you are held up to. The second one was something called parentification, and that is where the roles of the child and the parent are reversed, and the child ends up taking care of the parent and taking on a lot of the responsibilities that really belong to the parent, to the adult in the situation. The third one was, let's see, what was it? Yes, there's a lot of your needs just flat out go unmet, whether they are, physical needs, or if it might be emotional, it might be spiritual, it might mean there's a lot of things, but you aren't encouraged to become yourself. You aren't encouraged to voice your opinion. You aren't encouraged to really say much of anything. You're supposed to just keep your mouth shut and behave as much as you can. Honestly, that's what it felt like. Anyway, the fourth one was that in families like that, there's continuous conflict. It's like a chronic disease going on. Nothing is ever settled. It's just one thing after the other, or it's just something that's just drug out over years. But anyway, the fifth one was that a sign would be any kind of abuse, whether it's verbal, psychological, physical, sexual, whatever, but I will repeat, abuse is never okay. It destroys, it it destroys the spirit inside the child that has to live through that. It does. I've seen it. I've experienced it for myself. It does a great deal of damage. You can't come back from it. I can promise you that. But anyway, I want to get into the rest of the signs. And these, like I said, are going to be things that you're going to notice as an adult, as this dysfunction, as this toxic family. Things do tend to evolve. But they're going to continue unless you start setting up boundaries and trying to do things that are going to bring some healing. So, yeah, it's not always fun. But anyway, let me get back into this. Let me pull my notes back up here. All right. So the sixth, well, let me just say something else too that I meant to at the beginning. As I said, that dysfunction, as you become an adult, you grow up, you become an adult, the whole family evolves along with you, honestly, in many instances. And it's different tactics, but it's basically doing the same thing. It is taking relationships and making them very unstable, and it's taking a healthy psyche and really messing it up. Yeah, anyway, something that you're going to see once you're an adult, with toxic, dysfunctional families. Good grief! Sorry, I'm trying to pull my notes up here where I can. There we go. Now I can see them better. Okay. One thing you're going to see is that there is going to be someone's going to try and exert control over your life. You've already lived through it. You've already been a child. You've survived that whole thing. It doesn't seem right that you just continue to suffer from this. But in many instances, this is the case. When you love somebody, you want the best for them. You really do. If you truly love somebody, you do. You want the best for them. And I've seen, even in the family that I grew up in, I know we were loved. And I still love my siblings. I love my mother. I'm still very angry, very bitter about a lot of the stuff that went on because it's affected me very deeply. But I know deep down that the reason all of this was going on was because of something, well, it was, I've spoken of this many times, but it was just generational abuse that was just passed down from one generation to the next until somebody finally got sick to death of it and said enough. That happened to be me. In my family's case, I'd had it. I refused to. My mother treated me much the same. I am, at least I suspect that she treated me much the same way her father treated her and his father treated him. I mean, we could go all the way back. I'm really curious where it actually started, but I know, I know that the reason for all the dysfunction, the toxicity, wasn't that she hated me and that she wanted to, to get at me for some reason. I always knew deep down that I was loved, but she did not have the ability to control, to regulate her emotions. She didn't have coping mechanisms. She didn't know how to tell someone that she needed help. I mean, it was her generation. That wasn't okay. You tuck all these icky things under the rug and you ignore them and pretend they're never there. But I always knew that there was a reason for it, and deep down she did want the best for me. But there had been so much abuse that she had suffered. It really messed things up. It does. It whew. And it would be nice to be a time traveler and be able to go back and maybe find out a little more about what really went on, just so that I could understand her a bit better, and maybe I would be more understanding, and maybe that would help me to forgive a little easier. I don't know. I guess it really doesn't matter anymore. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is I know when we love someone, we really do want the best for them, and that's normal. That's normal. Okay. But what is not normal is when someone is relentless and they try to control every single action that you do. My mother tried that with me when I graduated from high school. I got out very quickly. She tried to tell me how to think, how to feel, what I was supposed to do with my life, where I was supposed to go to college. I mean, on and on. I mean, she had things planned out the way that she wanted to see things done. And, as soon as I left home, I was done with that. No, I wanted out. And, but I do remember that she tried very hard and she used every tactic she could think of, especially a lot of guilt and a lot of emotional blackmail to try to get me to do what she wanted. And it was not fun at all. But, I was done with it. But, this can come in a lot of different ways. I'm trying to think. I already mentioned things like using guilt or emotional blackmail. Sometimes people will just lie constantly, or they people that have a more borderline personality type of personality disorder will actually play family members off of one another, and that's I haven't experienced it, but I've seen it, and it's crazy. Um, but the same thing goes on where your wants and your needs are still ignored. There might be even trying to control access to money. I mean, there's so many things that can happen here. But as you become an adult and you leave home, you're no longer under the thumb of your parent, and it's going to be strange for them, and they're going to try to control the situation. At least that's what I have seen. Personally, I've experienced that, but also as a psych nurse, I have seen that. um, and as I said, when people really really truly love you, they want the best for you. But this kind of behavior, it does not show that. And if you catch one of your parents, now that you're an adult, saying something to you like, oh, it's for your own good, I'm afraid in that situation, it probably isn't quite true. That's a way to try to control you. And it's not as much because they're not asking, what do you need? What do you want? If they're trying to control you, that's not it. Things get a little messy, but that's another thing you're going to see. It is this controlling parental style. People that are raised, by parents who respond, especially as an infant, in that first 7 years, if you have a parent that responds to you, time after time, and they're warm, in the way that they treat you, and um, People that grow up with that are often much happier and much more satisfied with their lives. But controlling parents end up with children once they're adults that are very dissatisfied and very unhappy with their lives. And it's just plain sad. It's not fair. It's not right. Unfortunately, it is a fact of life, but it's not fair. I want to read you a quote by a psychologist, Dr. Mai Stafford. And the quote here is: by contrast, psychological control was significantly associated with lower life satisfaction and mental well-being. Examples of psychological control include not allowing children to make their own decisions, invading their privacy, and fostering dependence. Unfortunately, I kind of see a lot of that. Not just my family. And oh boy, but it's just it breaks my heart because I've experienced it. And I hate seeing people going through similar things. I know the pain. I know, and I know what it does to you mentally. It's not easy. I mean, it's why I spent 15 years of my life in perpetual addiction. It messed me up. Sorry, this just brings up so many feelings still, so many memories. Wow. Anyway, the next sign that you're going to see, that's a good sign, toxicity, dysfunctionality, dominance. This can be for both children and adults. And a lot of times, this dynamic starts when you're a child and continues well into adulthood. And I've seen this. I have seen this. It took me a very long time. You guys, I'm 52. It's just the last 5-6 years that I've got to the, it's not the word I want. I've come to the point where I can finally start putting boundaries down with my mother. And I felt it was so hard to do. The first couple of times I did it, it felt so wrong. And I felt so much guilt. And she didn't have to say anything. I was doing it to myself, and I could hear her in the back of my mind. But you know what? You reach a point where you can only take so much, and you're so sick of the nonsense. You have to put your foot down. It is, it's terrifying. And it doesn't make sense because I'm an adult. Why should I be afraid of my mother? Why should I be afraid to put down boundaries, things that are going to make things easier for me? Finally, it doesn't make sense, does it? But the guilt is very real when you first start doing that. But this dominance and submission, this kind of dynamic that you see a lot of times in dysfunctional families, usually it's one family member, that's the boss and rules everybody else. And that was indeed the case in the house I grew up in. My mother just was a beast at times. I can't imagine what happened to her to cause her to behave like that. I don't even really want to think about it, and it really gets to me when I start thinking about it. That must have been something so painful to get her to behave the way that she did and to say the things that she did. And it was so hard. Sorry, it was so hard to watch her just tear my dad down. My dad, I didn't have him for very long. I lost him when I was 17. He was out of the home because of his job for a great deal of the time. I just feel like I didn't get much time with him, and the time that when he was home, she made it hell for him. I don't know. Sorry, they're on my phone. I don't know. Sometimes I think about it and I'm almost angry with my dad because he didn't put his foot down and say enough and leave. I secretly for a long time wished that he would leave my mother, that he'd file for divorce, and I wanted to go with him. It was just so hard being in that house. But it was, I think, the thing that bothered me more than anything, and that still gets to me, is when I think of just how awful she was to him, the horrible things that she would tell him. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. If you've been through something, if you've been hurt by someone, you know what it feels like. You know how much it hurts. It does not make sense to me to turn around and then do the exact same thing to somebody else, especially if it's your own flesh and blood. That just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm still struggling to forgive my mom for a lot of things. But I think it will be in the end much easier for me to completely and frankly forgive her for anything that happened between us two. But what's going to be the hardest is forgiving her for what I saw her do to my dad. I'm sorry. It still just hurts so much. But, it is so damaging seeing that. But, when you grow up in a situation like that where there's one person who is the boss and they're the only ones that matter, it doesn't, you don't get a say in anything. They don't ask you, they don't nurture you. I mean, it's just you're told what to do, and that's it. That continues. As you become an adult. And it's a very difficult thing to end. As I said, the first time I started putting down boundaries with my mother, I felt so guilty. I don't anymore. And it's getting much easier. And you know what? I don't even, if she's in a mood, I just leave. I don't spend a lot of time with her. I do check on her. I do take her, I take her eggs and things like that, but I spend very little time anymore. And it would break my heart if my daughters felt the same way about me as I feel about my mother. And again, I can't imagine the pain that she went through for her to end up saying and doing the things that she did. It was, I gotta quit thinking about it. But anyway, the next sign that you're going to see, that you may see, is exploitation. And I know there are a few of you. I think somebody just popped up in my feed. Hang on here. Let me check here. I think I heard that. Oh, yep. Mr. Dragon. There she is. Hey, I thought I heard you pop up.
Yeah, this is my first time, so I'm
Cool.
completely lost. I have to put on my glasses.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I was just listening to your story, and it's pretty much the same as mine.
I figured there would be many people who would know exactly what I was talking about. And where are you as far as your your
Location
healing, I guess, from
of
all
my
of that?
healing, I'm a lot better now that she's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trust me, you do not want to know the abuse your mother suffered because it will never leave your mind. It's no, it's ugly, and at least my mom's was.
Yeah. It had to have been it had to have been awful
Yeah.
because at her core she's a good person. She is. And I love her. And she's had a, I don't know. Yeah. I'm trying. I'm trying really hard, to forgive and to try to get to know her a little better. And it's so hard because there's so many things that we just can't talk about.
Oh yeah, they don't want to
She
touch.
won't.
Yeah, especially if she's religious. My mother was a novice nun and didn't take her final vows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I literally got religion beat into me as a kid.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. I mean, hungover or not, I had to attend Sunday mass in high school, and it usually was not in English because I couldn't get up in time.
Oh no. All in Latin, huh?
No, all in Spanish.
Oh, in Spanish. Okay.
Yeah, I just knew when to sit down, stand up, and kneel.
Hey, you got your workout in, right?
Oh boy, that,
Up
yeah,
and at
Catholic
it.
aerobics. That's what we called it. But yeah, I mean, you said how can flesh and blood do that? I wasn't her flesh and blood. I was her trophy child she adopted.
Ooh.
And so the outer world saw us as the perfect little family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then behind closed doors, mm-mm. I mean, my dad was my savior, but they worked opposite shifts. He worked swing shift, she
Mm.
worked days. I'm in school days. I'm home with her in the evening. If she's home, I used to have to drive myself to dance class at age 15 with no license
Oh wow.
because nobody was there to take me. Good old Gen X.
I I've done this. I did the same thing with drill team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, I'm a farm kid, so it didn't matter. We drove everywhere anyway, but
Yeah.
oh my goodness. Wow. But I mean, she was almost a nun. That is hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
That is wow.
I mean, she told me one day we were coming back from the coast. Nathan's a good kid in spite of you. He was like 3.
Hmm.
I said, no, Nathan's a good kid because of me. I was ready to go over the back seat and just strangle her.
Wow. See how why would you say something like that? It doesn't make sense to me. And I
Yeah.
know it doesn't make sense to you either. It's
No,
like,
it's just
wait,
these little narcissistic digs she had to put in there. Or
yes.
she would, how did I word that once? Backhanded compliments. It's like they
Awesome.
complimented you and insulted you at the same time. It's like, really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. In my family, sarcasm became an art form. And that's how we speak to each other. And it's kind of sick when you think about it because there's always a little kernel of truth. Even when you're joking, you're being sarcastic, there's a little kernel of truth. And I didn't really think about it. And I would be sarcastic with my husband and he'd be so hurt. And I'd think, wait, what? And I had to really think about it. And yeah, it's stuff like that, like those backhanded
Mm.
comments and sarcasm, things like that. It's a dig.
The
And
first sentence I remember as a child out of my mother's mouth is, Walt, stop being so sarcastic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was raised by an Irishman.
Oh my word.
Oh, yeah.
That's hardcore Catholicism right
Oh,
there.
he wasn't that much of a Catholic.
Okay.
It was my Mexican mother.
Wow. Oh my
So,
goodness.
oh yeah.
That's an interesting heritage, Mexican and Irish.
Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
my husband's children have very similar.
My mother one day goes, "Your dad's sisters don't like me because I'm Mexican." I said, "No, my dad's sisters don't like you because you're a bitch." And she was like, one day she pouted because I left her in a hot car for just a matter of seconds after me and the daycare kids did her errands on a 100-degree day.
Ooh.
And I decided to take the water and put it on her walker and then go to her room and take it. And I lost it. I told her, "I am not your N word," but I used the full word out in public, loud. I was pissed.
Yeah. It, did she ever did she ever get to the point where she started to respect your boundaries or try to make up for anything or try to explain any of it?
Oh no. And on her last lucid day, I got that dirty look.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And then she said this twice, and I wonder what she saw. She goes, "The devil said, shut her up."
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really
So
curious
I'm
what
like
she.
going, "What are you seeing and which direction are you going?"
Wow.
Mm.
You know, as a nurse, I have seen people, you know, when they're leaving this life and they're passing on, very often they see someone and they're speaking with someone.
Yeah.
There's and I've seen good and I've seen bad. I've seen really awful screaming and crying and seen horrible things, and then I've seen just wonderful reunions that you couldn't see, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, they can. Yeah.
Wow. But so you said it is easier now that she's gone?
Yeah. I
Wow.
don't have that dread when the phone rings or I come back out of the mountains of, oh, if there's a voicemail, I have to call her back,
Mm.
or she expects me to run. It took her a long time to figure out that she moved an hour and a half away where she was 10 minutes away. She expected me to run down and get her a case of pop. It was like, I can't do that, Mom. That's 4 hours out of my day.
Yeah. Wow. Oh
So, yeah.
boy.
Yeah, my dad's still alive and I have a stepmom and they're both 90.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and they still got their marbles, but their body's starting to break down.
Mm. That's hard. I'm afraid that's about where well, my mother's health is not so good either, and her husband isn't. Yeah, they're both really starting to. And I'm
Yeah,
the closest one, which is crazy because I'm the one that struggles the most with her. But
yeah. Like my brother's in Arizona and I'm up here and dad's just an hour away. And I looked at my dad's house the other day and went, "Oh my God, we're going to have to empty this."
oh,
Yeah, I'm starting my Swedish or Norwegian death cleaning now.
mm,
Yeah,
good idea.
yeah.
Good idea. Yeah, that's not fun.
Mm-mm.
We were my husband and we just moved about the same time Tommy did, and it how do you accumulate this much stuff? I don't understand it. But I told him, so we have got to start getting rid of some stuff because when it's our turn to pass on, the
Yeah.
kids are going to want to come here and get rid of everything.
Oh no, I know. I've got, see, I have most of my mother's stuff because she moved from a 2 bedroom, no, 3 bedroom house to a 700-foot assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to deal with that. And
Mm.
no dementia. So it was like, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? I had to keep it all.
Oh
So
boy.
now I'm trying to get rid of it. And then I have pictures of people I don't know who they are.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Like, I do I just chuck them? Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, we don't know,
Hard one because you don't know who might ask
Yeah,
for it later, or maybe you find out later on, oh, why did I get rid of that? You know?
yeah. And my uncle goes, the only one who would recognize those people in this big old hard wooden photo album
Hmm.
now has dementia.
Oh man.
So
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That is, it's
yeah.
not it's not easy. We only get this little reprieve. Honestly, it's like we grow up, we go through hell, we get a little reprieve, and then guess what? Here they
Yeah,
are
we're
again.
back in that shit. We're back in that show again.
I am seriously starting to worry. You know what is it going to be like the next couple of years, because she and her husband are both really starting to go downhill. I mean, she's 73 and she just finally retired from her
Oh
job.
wow.
She's a banker forever.
Oh
But I know, I mean, she loved her job and she was very good at it and she was needed. And for her to finally get to the point where she retired, I know she's not feeling well. You know, it's
yeah.
not a good sign.
My mother retired, and I think as soon as she can, and died at 84. She's born in 35,
Mm.
so 87. Yeah.
So what do you find that you struggle with the most now after living through all of that? You said you were adopted, and so did she treat you a lot more, did she treat you differently than her own flesh and blood?
She only had me and my brother, and we're both adopted.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, oh yeah. So I was supposed to be the girl that went shopping and did everything with her,
Mm-hmm.
and my brother would be the one that would go hunting and fishing. Well, it ended up being the other way around.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome. I was always so mad. You know, I grew up on a farm. My grandparents were right next door, and the hunting, the fishing, I was never invited. I was so mad. That'd make me. I belonged in the kitchen, you know, and I know
yeah.
I don't have a problem with that, but it would have been fun to do the other stuff too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I understand. I had to learn how to cook because she couldn't cook to save her life.
Oh no.
She cooked a ham one Christmas that my oldest looked at and said, "Are we having salmon?" She basically boiled it.
Oh goodness. Oh dear.
Yeah. And she came back from Spain, and
Hmm.
I told the kids, we were driving down the road, and I told the kids, I said, "Well, Grandma's back from Spain," and my youngest goes, "If Grandma's here, who's running hell?"
Dear.
Yeah. She looked at
It
my
it
youngest.
would be a nun that would
Yeah.
run it. I'm sorry.
She
I,
looked at my youngest when he was born because he had blonde hair and blue eyes and goes, "He looks like them."
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
I have the darker Native American skin, and so does my oldest.
Hmm.
So my oldest was her favorite.
Huh.
So yeah.
Did you ever see her try to pull any of the stunts that she would pull on you with your children? Did you ever see anything like that, or was it different?
It was different. She would just accuse my youngest of being on drugs, which he never was. But my oldest, who
Mhm.
grew weed in the basement, and he did his experiment, and he's done with all that now. But I'm like, no, 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 you got the wrong kid, Mom. This one's just quiet and shy. That one's the stoner. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
So, yeah, I've never seen kids keep track of books when they sold their stuff, how much they sold and who they sold it to, and I'm like going, oh God.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Well,
So,
I'm curious, what has been the biggest hurdle you've had to make after you left home, and you, I mean, because you really you've lived through so much, and then all of a sudden, you're no longer, when you're no longer at home. Did you struggle? I mean, did you struggle to know how to handle yourself and what to do, or was that even an issue?
That was never an issue. Apparently, people said I had more confidence than I probably should have had in high school. I was a bit of an arrogant asshole. But
Life has a way of knocking us off of that little
oh
pedestal.
yeah, oh yeah. Once in a while, I'd get knocked off. But it's like my husband taught me not to say I'm sorry for everything.
That's what I've been working on seriously for the last year.
I didn't realize until later how broken I was that he put back together.
Wow.
Yeah, we graduated in the same grade. We're
That's
age
my
6 months
husband too.
apart. Like, yeah, he turned 57 in March. I turned 57 on the 6th.
Oh, on
Yeah, this coming
September
6th.
6th.
Yeah,
Oh, I better write that down.
yeah. They gave. I always had fun with people. It's like, what's your birth date? 9/6/6/6.
I love it. Oh goodness. So, what has been the most difficult thing for you to have to overcome? To become, I mean, because you look, I mean, I don't know you very well, but from what I've seen of you on Facebook and your interactions in the chat, you are, yourself, and you are confident in who you are. You know what you want. I mean, that's the impression that I get, that you seem very well put together. I mean, you must have come a long way, because you don't behave as if you had ever been through something that, like, as that what you've been through, you know?
I took solace in the fact that I was not genetically related to her.
Ah,
And once I met my birth mother, I found out I was a lot like her.
oh, really?
Yeah. And I
Wow.
thought I'd have mama for after mother passed for a long time, but mama died in 2015 in a car wreck.
Oh, wow.
So now her ashes help me make blankets.
What's that?
I said, now her ashes help me make blankets.
Oh,
They put her
oh,
box down. Here, hold this. I said, you like to sew.
that's awesome. I,
So
I
yeah,
like that. I'm a little morbid, but I like that.
yeah. I mean, it's like people are just like, well, what's that? I said, well, that's my birth mother. Yeah. First thing I did when I got her was give her a shake.
Love you.
I love you too. Yeah, yeah.
So,
She's heavier than I remember. Um,
did, did your did your um did your the mother that adopted you, when you tracked when you were able to meet your birth mother, did she feel threatened or anything like that? Did she?
no, no, not at all. They sat down and broke out my baby pictures.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now I've
that's
never met
awesome.
my birth father. I've talked to him twice on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my half brother said he was drinking with him at the bar a while back. He goes, but I didn't say anything because I didn't know if he knew about you or not. I said, oh yeah, he found out about me when I was 35. So yeah,
Wow.
I was
That's-
I ran for junior miss my senior year. I
uh-huh.
got first princess. I
Wow.
was told I was running. I didn't have a choice. My
Oh,
dance
really?
teacher was on the talent committee, and of course, mother was going to make me anyway. I wasn't allowed to eat any sweets for that summer.
Oh no.
And just to be a complete pain in the butt, uh, I told the judges on the interview, I said, I don't want to be queen. That's too much responsibility. And so a judge came up later and said, you were 4 points away from being it. And I was just like, okay. I knew mother wanted me to be queen, and I was going to deny her of that. And I think that's why my brother didn't give her a funeral. That was his little FU moment.
Oh, wow.
She didn't get
So,
a funeral, and it was all paid for.
Oh, really?
He just had her cremated, put into a really pretty urn, and put into the
Uh-huh.
ground. And
Wow.
me and the family were the only ones there.
Mm.
Oh yeah. I mean, by all means, I should be nuts, but luckily I'm not.
What do you
Well,
think?
no,
What do you think accounts for that? Because you seem so on top of things. You really do. I mean, you look like. I mean, you look so beautiful. You're healthy.
thank you.
You have. I mean, you seem mentally well. Everything. I mean, you don't
It
look like you've been through anything like what you've been through.
it took a lot because I had to heal myself. I won't see a shrink.
Okay.
I'm one who continually has the the voice in my head, the constant chatter. I've worked things through,
Hmm.
and I've had to go through bulimia, anorexia. I went through the cutting phase. Oh yeah, I mean,
It messes
and
you up, doesn't it?
and my oldest came home. He was so proud of himself that he was on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. And I looked at him. I'm like, "What the f are you on that for?" I said, "You have a brain strong enough to heal yourself." And it took him about a year, and because they kept upping it, and he just didn't feel good. And he finally told him, "I'm done." He goes, "I'm fine now." He goes, "I have never felt better."
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
So
There is a psychiatrist. I can't think of his name, but I follow him on YouTube, and he is adamant that psychotropics, antidepressants, anxiolytics, any things for um, anything for psychotic episodes, anything like that, any kind of psychiatric medication. He's just adamant that they are not necessary, and in many cases they do more harm than they do good. And he's really adamant about children not being given things, and he says, people even with schizophrenia that people aren't supposed to come out of. I did, you know but if you can get the right help, or if you can figure things out. I mean, it looks like you have figured things out
yeah,
so
I was
pretty
my
well.
own psychoanalyst.
But if you can do that, I mean, it is possible to get to a point where you don't need any of that any longer. And I've always been taught that things like schizophrenia, once you have that diagnosis, it's a life thing.
Oh yeah,
And you're on your meds forever. And yeah, that's not true. But I really like this doctor. I mean, I've had so many head injuries, mixed with the trauma and mental illness in my family. And so far, I cannot get away from, I have to have an antidepressant. Like, I can't, I've tried
yeah,
over and over, but I love listening to that doctor. And I really think that we do have the key to heal ourselves if we want to, and if we're willing to do the work. you
yeah.
know
And that's a lot of shadow work people aren't ready to do.
it's not fun.
No, you
It's
you're looking down a black hole that you really don't want to go down, but you've got to at least dip your toe into it.
Yeah, and I think shadow work is the perfect term for it too, because it's all the things that you want to keep in the shadows. You'd just as soon leave it there.
Yeah,
But to be happy, to find peace, you have to work through it. It's just,
I
it
spend a
doesn't.
lot of time alone, so I have a lot of time to talk to myself in my head and start working it out.
I was at working in the garden earlier today. I talked to myself, and I talked to the chickens.
I
I
talk to
talked
the
to the duck
bugs.
that
I
flies
talk
over
to
the
the
fence. I
birds.
talk to the rabbits that come in. Everything. I talk all the time, and I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
Who hears me? I don't care, because it does me good. I probably look like I'm stark raving mad. I don't care.
no, no, and that's the thing. As we get older, we care less about what other people think, and if
Yes.
we could just teach the younger generation that. And I tell the daycare kids, I said, don't worry about what other people think of you, because they're not thinking of you. They're too worried about what others think of them.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
said, so don't even care what they think because they're probably not even thinking about you.
They're more focused on themselves. That's,
Yeah.
that's
And I want
I
the
love
old,
it that you were trying to instill that in little minds. They need to hear that. They
yeah,
do. They need to. I don't know if they'll believe it, but they need to hear it
yeah,
because someday it's going to click and they're going to remember that you said that and they're going to go, oh, yeah. And they'll start filling it out and they'll go, yeah, she's right,
yeah.
and it's real.
Nobody
They'll
cares.
remember that.
Yeah. And I teach them, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I said, unless they're those alphabet blocks, yes, those will hurt.
Yeah. There are a few things that my mother has said to me when I was young, when I was a kid, that to this day still sting. And I don't think I'll ever be able to forget them. And the crazy thing is, she doesn't even remember saying them. But
Yeah.
there are they, when you're in a narcissistic type of relationship with someone, where your feelings and your wants, your needs do not matter. They know exactly how to tear you down. They know what's going to
Hmm.
get to you, and it's not right that they do it.
I was in my 40s and I slipped and cussed at the fair and I saw the hand go up. She's gonna smack me in the mouth in public.
Oh,
I looked at her. I'm like, really?
wow. My mom's finally got the message. She finally gets it that she gives me any crap. I just get up and leave. I don't
Yeah.
even say anything. I'm gone. And it's kind of nice for her to treat me with a little bit of respect now. It's nice. And we don't argue about anything anymore because we don't talk about anything that really matters, which is really
Yeah.
sad. But
Take you into the kitchen. Ugh. Got to plug you in. Let's see.
so um did you have a role model, or did you have grandparents? Did you have an aunt or somebody that you could turn to when you were a child, that you could talk to, that you could get a little clarity from, or a little relief, or a little love, or I mean, how?
Not really, because most of mother's relatives didn't really speak English very well.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. And then dad's side was in Idaho. So
Okay.
where's my stylus? Okay. Get my notifications off there. Yeah, I just, I had my dad, and that was about it.
Mm.
And then my aunt, my great great aunt, when I was older, she goes, I'm sorry, Eva had to raise you and Sally, which is my cousin. She's in her 70s now.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I understood then.
Mm. Honestly, I would be a basket case if I hadn't grown up next door to my dad's parents. They really, and up until I was about 14, every time my Australian grandparents were here too, I had a really good relationship with them until I was a teenager, and then it got really ugly.
Mhm.
But honestly, if I hadn't have had my grandparents, I spent a great deal of time with my grandmother. We'd talk about everything, and I learned how to cook, how to sew, how to upholster, how to paint, how to
Oh, wow. Yeah.
everything. I mean, we do everything ourselves. That's how I was taught. And I mean, I even make my own drapes, stuff like that,
Oh,
but I
I do
learned that
too.
from being with my grandmother. And honestly, if I hadn't have had them, I don't know if I'd be alive, honestly.
Yeah.
They were what kept me sane. And that was, I knew what was going on. I knew from a very young age that what was going on in our house wasn't normal. and it
Oh,
wasn't right.
oh
I
yeah.
knew. A lot of people, they say, if you grow up a certain way, you really don't know anything different. But I knew it was wrong. I have a distinct memory when I was 3 of getting upset with my parents because they were bickering back and forth, and it was troubling me terribly. But I also learned, yeah, that you don't do that either, that you
Yeah.
don't say anything. But I knew even way back, my first memories, I knew it wasn't right.
Oh, mine fought continually. I
Hmm.
was either 4 or 5, and I remember mother threatening my dad to send me back to the nuns. Yeah, because I was adopted through Catholic Child and Family Services.
How did you survive this?
I just went under
That
the swing.
someone saying that to me, if it would have been me in your place, I don't think I could have handled that.
I remember
Wow.
going outside and swinging on the swings.
Wow.
And then I realized later she did that just to hurt dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I saw her do to my father is what I struggle so much with it, and that's where most of my anger still is right there. And he's not here any longer. I can't get his side of things. I can't ask him, why did you not leave? Why didn't you? But it really it ground him down
Oh,
to
yeah.
he was I had someone that he worked with in he was one of in the ward that I grew up in my church. My dad was one of the leaders, and he was in our one of the in the bishopric. But the bishop that he worked under, I was talking to him a couple of years back, and he mentioned how depressed my dad was right before he died. I didn't even
Oh,
realize,
wow.
but I started thinking about everything that I'd seen and everything that went on, and I thought, of course he was. And then I remembered there was a day when my mother, she would nag and pick and just say such horrible things, and he'd get to the point where he would want to hit her. He never laid a
Yeah.
finger on her, but he'd take like a stool. I remember one time he just started banging his stool, and the pieces were flying all over, and there was a hole in the floor, and it would just drive him nuts. And then my mom would get scared, and then she'd freak out, and she'd send my brother over to get my grandfather to come over and calm him down. And it's like, you
You
lady, you're
started
not.
it.
He creates the problem, and then she acts like the victim, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it would just, I can see now. But I remember one of those fights where he got to that point where he just couldn't take it anymore, and he took off out the back door with his shotgun, and I went, oh crap. And I don't have any clear memories of what went on after that point. I remember I went out after him, and then I remember gathering up my brother and sisters, getting them in the car and taking off. I didn't have a license yet, but I wasn't going to stick around if he was going to go through with it,
Yeah.
And I don't think my mom even had a clue that he was at that point. And so when he got sick, he was, from the time we found out he had cancer till he was dead, it was just 6 months.
Oh,
And
wow.
what made me so angry was she was so horrible to him for so long. And then when she could see, you know what, I think I might be losing him, then she would sit next to him and put her arm around him. And I'm like, no, stop it.
Mm-mm.
Because
Yeah, you're being a
it's
hypocrite.
fake. It's not real. And I don't know what she really felt, but it made me angry. It's like, you don't act that way, You don't just all of a sudden, I don't know. Does that even
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. It's
I
like
just,
you can't make up for what you've done in the past within a few days.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, I was so mad. But I couldn't tell anybody. I thought if I tell anybody, they'll think I'm nuts.
Or that, they think, okay, well, it's just a family issue and we don't need to get involved. And yeah.
And I think too, a lot of people, if people did have an idea that there was something going on that shouldn't have been, the community I grew up in, you kept all those things to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep.
But it's, and I look at my siblings now, and I was the one that got messed up the most. But they're being the oldest was probably part of it. The accident and the head trauma that I've had was a big part of it. But I've seen, my sisters and my brother, all of us struggle with insomnia. We always have. And I think every single one of us are on an antidepressant. And my brother and my youngest sister have been through a lot of therapy like I have. But my sister, the one that won't talk to me, it breaks my heart. She has so much anxiety, and growing up in a house like that didn't help anything. And she is so afraid of everything. I don't know how she lives. I mean, she just has to have control of everything around her. She can't enjoy life. She won't put a bath bomb in her tub because she'll have to scrub the tub after. And she wouldn't go to Lake Powell with us because she didn't want to get in the sand. She's missing out on life because her anxiety is keeping her from everything. And but she's so anxious, and she is so against looking at anything that's ugly, that she will live this way her whole life. And she's miserable.
That's tough. I've got 3 brothers and 1 sister on my birth mother's side, and a sister on my birth father's side. And I talk to 1 brother. I don't talk to the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
My half sister on Ted's side, she killed 2 kids driving drunk down the wrong way in Vancouver, Washington. Yeah, she killed 2 girls. Yeah, so she get jail time for that.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was just Googling because I hadn't heard from her. I'm like, wonder if she's still alive. And I saw that and I went, oh my.
Guess not, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
I can't be around her anyway. She's way too negative.
People like that are hard to be around. That constant negativity is draining. At least for me, it is.
Yeah.
And if people are really needy too, I
no, can't do that either.
Thing, it's
yeah. And it's hard because like I was raised by an RN. I spent years being an NAC. So, so you have that, you want to nurture, but it's like after a while, it's like, no, I've got to put up my shield. No, I can't do this anymore with some people.
Yep. I have actually ended a few friendships. Oh, I guess if I go about 5 years back, just because it was, and I felt so horrible about it, but it was draining me. It was just, I couldn't do it anymore. And, and I'm like you. I mean, I automatically want to help and nurture people, uplift them, love them, try to help them with their pain, things like that. But yeah, you have to take care of you, first. And I'm learning that.
It's like I always say, you can't pour from an empty glass.
Exactly.
You have to take time to fill it up. Sometimes you get to fill it full, and sometimes it's a quarter full before you got to use it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very true.
So, yep. And I know we are at the top of the hour. We're at 1:05.
We are, but thank you so much for coming on. It's been wonderful to talk to you.
I was listening to you, and I'm scrambling to finish putting on my makeup before I get on here. So,
well, thank you so much. I am sure that just if people watch this and just hear us talking back and forth, they're going to identify with things that we're talking about, and they're going to go they're going to say, they're going to hear something that one of us has said and go, okay, I'm not crazy. I can do this.
I'm not the only one. Yeah.
Because we are all, we're all just in a different spot on our journey towards being whole again. And if I will embarrass myself. I'll talk about all the stupid things I've done, all the mistakes, if it will help somebody else so they don't make that same mistake,
Oh yeah. So they can go, okay, well, this worked for this person did this. It didn't quite work for them. So it might not work for me.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
But hey,
Nobody
thank
makes
you
my
so
calls.
much. It has been so wonderful to talk to you.
It was nice. And finally, I didn't have any daycare kids. I didn't have any hubby. It's like I might as well jump on while I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I know that everyone else appreciates it as well. So thank you again.
You're welcome, Heather. I'm
Hey,
glad I could do it.
you have a great day. Okay.
You too. I'll see you guys at 5.
Okay. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye bye.
Wow, guys, that was amazing. Well, and I'm going to have part three, and I was planning to have part three anyway. Because there's been so much more since I started looking at all of these, specific signs. It stirred up all kinds of things. So I'm not going to just stop with, um, these are some of the common signs, that you've been in a very toxic situation. I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do about it. Because you guys need to know, if you have been through dysfunctional toxic family situations, it has lasting effects. It's not fun. And Miss Dragon was talking about shadow work, that it's really important to be able to heal from that. Even though it's not fun, these are things you need to look at, you need to face, you need to be writing about it in your journal. If you need professional help, it is important to get that, whatever you need to heal from this. But I will be addressing that with part three, and I'll get through the rest of the signs. But I am so delighted she came on to share her experiences with us. That's awesome. Just awesome. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day. Here I come on, and I was crying early this morning. I come on and I cry again, and I'm sorry, but I get so much out of this in trying to help you. It helps me figure myself out. It's just this. Tommy talks about, coming on here, and this is a form of therapy for him. Same here. Same here. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Tommy will be on at 5, California or Pacific time, and I'm sure I'll be on tomorrow. So I will see you guys again very soon. Thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you later.